Hello and welcome to a very special video. Today we have the Age of Chivalry Foot Knights 1150 to 1320. 24 hard plastic miniatures and 28mm scale. Now I'll give you some ideas of what the scale looks like and all that as we go. But I initially bought this box because I had a plan in mind for it. Now I liked the Baron's War, which has a second edition. And I wanted to feature another War Games Atlantic kit on the channel and give a kind of a small review. So I'm going to talk about some of my experience with putting them together, some of my plans, and what I think of it overall. Now, I think the kit, by and large, is pretty great. It gives you a good amount of guys to deal with, good amount of parts, and even though there are some limitations in legs to torsos, you can still get a lot out of it. And if you want a kit bash, there's a lot more you can do, but we're just going to be dealing with the basic kit right now. The simple answer is, once I get the Sergeant's box, I'm going to take a few parts from that and a few parts from this, and I'm going to swap them out to see how that works for a future project. So let's start with what you get. So you're going to get, and I'm going to try to pull these down and move them into the shot without annihilating it immediately. You're going to get 4 of these sprues, which are pretty well done. You get a number of shields of different makes. They're usually in the style of kite shields. You have a number of sheathed swords, number of arms, a ton of heads. War Game Atlantic tends to give you a lot of heads. Let's go ahead and just, well, we'll keep that in the background. In general, you get a good amount of things. It's not insane. There's not like a lot of spears. I believe there is 1 spear in this kit. There is 1 two-handed axe and, oh geez. I think there's 2 two-handed axes. There's 2 one-handed axes. You have a couple picks and some maces, but generally it's swords. In terms of, let me go ahead and grab another one that has all the bodies on it. And we're going to go ahead and just bring this down for a moment. So when we're talking bodies, they're going to generally come as 2 parts. You're going to have the legs with the integral base, and then you're going to have the torsos. There's 2 torsos that don't have the one arm or the shield arm in sculpted onto them, and those are generally for two-handed weapons or other options such as waving or pointing or whatnot. We'll go ahead and get these sprues out of the way real quick, and we're going to grab this box, move it out of the way. All be done on the fly, and we're going to move these guys into shot. Now let's adjust it just a tad. Now they don't have the shields glued to them because I didn't want to obscure the models themselves. They are 3 parts for the main body. You have the head, you have the torso, and you have the legs. Now in this case, I had a bunch of 25mm bases, and I don't really like integral or integrated bases, so I went ahead and trimmed those off. If people are interested, I will show that off in a future projects. Just let me know if you want that in the comment section. Now, I went with a little bit of variety. So we have the guy with the sword over his shoulder. I haven't put a empty scabbard on him. We have a man with the falchion double-handed, and a guy with it on 1 hand. Now you'll notice right off that these guys have very similar helmets. 2 of them have the same helmet, 1 has a different one. So my plan was to do a set of 6 knights to look like the different factions of knights and potentially soldiers from Elden Ring, because I thought that would be a fun little project, and considering there's a lot of standardization between the different soldiers and knights in it, I wanted to have them all wear 2 helmets that were pretty much the same across the whole group because of, I'm assuming, some kind of unusual standardization. But you do have a number of helmet options. There's a good amount of posability. You can twist the torsos in different ways. You can team them up with different legs. There's a bunch of different arms. You're just going to have to deal with a number of them while using shields, unless you want a kit bash from like the Sergeant's kit or other options. In general, I think they're pretty good. They're detailed in where they need to be detailed, and they lack detail where they do. Where do they lack detail? So this guy right here, I'm going to flip him up. You'll see under his arm, there's not a lot of detail. I etched a little bit of a line in there so that I would see where the strap of the shield was. But in general, they're good little kits, and they're good models, and they do a pretty good job. They're easy to figure out once you've toyed around with them. Now, let's go ahead and pull these two guys out of the way, and we'll give you a quick size comparison. I'm going to use one of my older Space Marines. We're going to put a bam right there. You can see he's a bit of a big lad next to him. So let's go ahead and slide him over here and him here. And we'll bring in a Krieg. He's also a bit of a chunker, but he's not too out of scale with him, as you can see. Alright, well, let's go ahead and pull the older Space Marine out. Let's put a Horus Heresy Space Marine next to him. See how that looks. Bam. So, I think this should be the actual scale of most Imperial Guard for 40k, because we didn't really need to bloat it out, but I'm not going to get into that. That's just a personal thing. But you can see they're pretty much closer to a normal scale 28 millimeter. Let's go ahead and move these guys out of the way. And we're going to go ahead and just push them off the side, and we're going to pop some of the legs in here. So these are the legs. There's a number of different ones, about 6, I believe, in each kit. Yep, 6. And they have integrated bases, which is this little plastic thing at the bottom. Normally people just glue over and then get the soil up there, but you can trim them off relatively easy, especially because they're plastic. And they're easy enough to deal with. The surprising thing about these kits for me was how little cleanup there was required to get them ready to go. Very little mold line. There was some, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, they had been a vastly great little unit to deal with. They were quick to put together. They're easy to understand even without instructions. Though I will suggest this. If you plan on getting these, get yourself either the green bases that you'll see with a number of different historicals, depending on if you prefer squares or circles, that are flat. Or you can get yourself a bag of these 25 millimeters that are more like GW. I got them from a US made company, and I got a entire bag of them for like $10. So I went with that option, but there's a lot of options you can go with, but they do not come in the kit, or they didn't with the one I got. If you want to keep the bases, I definitely say get the flat bases that are green usually in color, and you can glue them on there and then just build up some basing around them, and they'll be fine. If you're like me, you can trim off the base or basing fairly roughly. And when you start doing your own base, which I have my own mix here, you'll have a pretty decent model, and you won't even really notice the roughness of it. Overall, I think they are a fantastic kit for the price, for the ease of use, for the material that you're getting them in. I give them a recommend if you're interested in something like the Barons were, especially the second edition, or you want some foot knights for potentially, let's say you're doing a one-page rules game with a French-styled Bretonnian-ish army, or you're going to play a number of different games. There's a couple I want to talk about, and there's one which is effectively, I don't remember the French word, but it means flares. And the other one is Great Helm, which is about basically micro skirmishes with medieval miniatures. But they're overall fantastic. I give them an A plus, 2 thumbs up. I recommend them for people who are looking for things. There's a lot more variety in the helmets. This is just for my own project. All right. So what is the project I'm planning on doing with these guys? I plan on doing an Elden Ring based thing where I have 6 guys in each group that's going to have a similar set of helmets. They're going to have different types of weapons worked in. Like these are went for the Radon guys, which are like red and purple. And they're going to have mostly kind of more brutal weapons. Falchions, swords, because they're moving into using swords mostly, and a couple other weapons like that. And I'm going to try to flavor them slightly different in terms of gear. And the helmets are going to be the defining factor of which group they're in. And of course, I'll be doing a thing talking about how to paint them. So if you're interested in that, let me know. It might be a fun project for me to get involved in and doing. And I plan on reviewing the sergeants. If you have any questions about the kit, let me know on the thing below. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And do you guys plan on getting a kit like that? Or would you like to see more about how I do some of the basing on these, how I took the integrated bases off them, or any of those things? Because oftentimes with a lot of these little plastic cutoffs, I mix them in with a mix of baking soda and a couple other like byproducts of generally dealing with models, and that is how I tend to get my basing material. So I can go over how to make basing material cheap, easy, and using your leftovers from various things, such as cork, clippings from your models, on and on and on. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.